Welcome! Do I have too many plants? No, that's not me. Welcome to my plant tour. So this video has been requested all of once. Thank you, Jakob. I appreciate it. The reason that I actually decided to do this is because I saw Jenna Marbles' wonderful plant tour on her channel, and then I just fell down the plant tuber hole. The YouTube hole. The plant tuber YouTube hole. Yes. This guy is my Christmas cactus. These guys are native to South America, and they actually require very little water, but they do require a lot of humidity. Oh, you're dripping on me. Pro tip: don't water your plants right before you do a plant tour. I am damp. This little guy is my Sansevieria trifasciata. Now, Sansevieria, or snake plants, are really excellent beginner plants because they need almost nothing from you. If you forget to water them, they're very forgiving. They don't have any special humidity requirements, and they don't like wet feet, which is really the only difficult thing. But I've gotten kind of around that by putting it in a terracotta pot. This is my other Sansevieria. He's relatively new, I only got him this week, but this is the Sansevieria cylindrica. You can see that his leaves are just round. They're round little stalks, which is fantastic. He has the same requirements as the other Sansevieria that I have. Neither of them like wet feet. Both of them require a nice thorough soaking in between periods of not watering them for a while so that they can dry out properly. And like the other Sansevieria that I have him in a terracotta pot. This is actually very common for my plants because I really like the terracotta pots. They allow me to regulate the moisture very, very easily. Now we're getting into all of my succulents. I have a lot of succulents. I feel like everyone has one type of houseplant that they really, really like. For me, that's definitely succulents because they can survive a lot of punishment. This little guy is my jade plant. He's about 3 years old, I would say, and I've successfully propagated him a couple times. Let's see if you can see. This one, probably about a year old, I would say. This one's a little bit younger. And this little guy, oh, I don't know if you can see him. And this little friend here is significantly younger than the other two. One of these guys, I think this one, maybe because he's a little bit smaller, are going to one of my friends as a housewarming gift, so don't tell him. This is a succulent pot that has varying succulents in it. I don't know the exact species of most of these plants, but I can tell you that this one right here is a Hawthoria. I really like him because he's got these little bony bumps on his leaves that are very interesting. I wonder if you can see those. And this here is the only succulent that I've ever grown from seed. This little guy right here. That is an aloe vera. Succulents, I try not to grow from seed just because their requirements are very, very different from adult succulents. Adult succulents prefer very, very dry soil. They want to dry out completely in between each watering, but the seeds really don't like that. They like very moist soil, very little sun, which is very much the opposite of their adult counterparts. So that was a very big adjustment for me. And I don't know if you can see very well, but this little guy I got from a nursery a couple years ago. He's put out a ton of pups. I've never had a succulent put out this many pups. It's insane. And these little guys, I'm not sure where they came from. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't know where they came from. But these, I believe, are also members of the aloe family. I have 3 large planters of succulents. This is the second large planter. Normally what you do with a big plant like this, you can see he's got a really long stem there, is you cut off the bottom of the stem towards the base so that it could grow a new floret, and then you would propagate the top so that it could get a new root system. I'm not gonna do that because I think he's just magnificent the way he is, and I've just knocked off like 2 leaves, so he's already gonna have a few babies. Sorry, little guy. The rest of this pot is a little bit of a mystery to me. I don't know the exact genus and species of any of these. So I will be researching that and I'll get back to you. This big guy is my Echeveria pot. You can see here that I have a lot of Echeveria florets. These are Pearl von Normburg, and I'm sorry German speakers, don't come for me. But these are my favorite of all time because they just grow like weeds. I started out with one of these bad boys and I have too many. That's it, too many. These florets here are all getting propagated because they, like that other Echeveria that I had, were just getting very, very leggy. So this guy, yep, he hasn't developed a root system yet because I actually cut him off from his roots. Let's see there. I think that this one might have been him. I don't know if you can see. But that stem there used to have one of these florets on top of it, but it just got too leggy, so I cut off the floret, and this is going to develop a new floret, and this is going to develop a new root system. I love succulents because they're super easy to propagate like that. You can pretty much cut off any part of the plant, and it'll have a chance at propagation. These guys right here are my crassulas. They're very small, very little guys. A lot of them are propagating, so I'm really scared to lift them up too much. A lot of them are developing root system because these stems are a little bit fragile. They tend to break a lot, especially when I'm repotting them, which I did recently for these guys. So in the repotting, I've gotten a lot of new plants. When I picked up that pot, I knocked over a lot of the florets that I'm propagating, and they're mad at me. This is my Crassula golem, or hobbit. He's actually due for a watering. He's one of my favorites because, as you can see, he's forming this wonderful woody stem. So he's going to be almost the same as my jade plant in a few years' time. He's only about a year old. I've only had him for a little while, but I absolutely love the shape of his leaves. They do definitely look kind of what I would imagine Gollum's fingers to look like in real life. Look at this bad boy. He's fantastic. You can see when I was repotting him that one of his poor little leaves fell off. So I'm gonna see if he's similar to my jade plant and I can propagate him, because I would really love another stem and have just a really, really full crassula. That would be really cool. This is my African milk tree. Euphorbia trigonia, I believe, is the scientific name. It is a succulent, native to Africa, obviously. And they store their water in these wonderful triangular stems. Fantastic, beautiful, I love it. This guy has had a chance to form a wonderful patina, as you can see. And in this pot, I have one of my mystery aloe plants, one of my mystery succulents, and this one is a little bitty baby crassula. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. This is going to be a housewarming gift to one of my friends. He is okay with succulents, so I believe that these guys have a really good chance. This is a Hawthornia. I really like this kind of square planter. I wish that they were more prevalent. I had to find this at a craft store. I don't think that it was ever meant to have a plant in it, but you know what? I wanted a plant in it, so we have a plant in it. I'm mad. I'm mad at how this was planted. So, the thing about succulents is that they really, really like dry soil. Dry soil. And this guy, this poor, sweet baby, was planted in sphagnum moss. Now, sphagnum moss isn't bad in and of itself, especially if you have a plant that really likes to retain a lot of moisture, but this poor little guy was in sphagnum moss, and you can't do that to succulents. So whenever you do get a plant from like a large box store like Walmart or Target, or I don't know, insert your box store here, please be sure that you know how it's planted and how it ought to be planted, because oftentimes those two are not going to match up. So I really just wanted to show you this planter because it's very interesting. It was also probably not meant to have live plants in it, but I don't care. I don't care. I will put plants in it if I want to. Another cool thing about this specific planter is that it has my string of pearls in it. I love string of pearls. It's one of my favorite succulents. So I was very happy when I was able to find these guys. Fantastic. Gorgeous. Oh wow, Emily, it's another container of succulents. How many succulents do you have? Well, that was the anthem. I lied. These guys are my propagation trays. The great thing about succulents is that you can propagate them from leaves. So, these are all leaves that were knocked off when I was repotting the plants. So, even though they're tumbling all over right now because they don't have root systems, eventually they will develop root systems just from these leaves, which is very, very exciting. It's one of my favorite things to do with succulents. It's also probably the reason that I have so many, but you know, whatever. There's just one more succulent. Well, this one's not really a succulent, it's a cactus. This guy also comes with a warning. So what you want to do when you buy a plant from a large box store is you want to check the roots. I always tell people this when they're buying plants where I can see them, but I didn't follow my own advice. This poor little guy had root rot. Now, what's root rot? Root rot is when your plant sits in water and the roots start to rot. That's why it's called root rot. Wow. The mysteries of the universe solved by Emily. So this poor little guy had root rot. Now, if I were any other gardener, I would have returned him and got a different one. However, I'm stupid. Perhaps I shouldn't say stupid. I'm foolish. I'm very foolish. So, one thing that I did wrong is I didn't check the roots. And the second thing that I did wrong is that I immediately went to repot this plant. In this case, it helped me, but normally you shouldn't repot your plants immediately upon getting them unless they're in improper conditions, like that Hawthoria that I have. Now, this poor little dude had root rot, and he had a good couple of inches of yellow stem. Now, that's really bad because it means that that part of the stem is beyond saving, and so is the root system. So what I did, because I knew that if this little guy had root rot, the rest of them probably did. That's not a knock on the nursery that I got it from, because I'm sure it wasn't their fault. Cacti are very, very difficult to cultivate if you're not intimately aware with what they need. This guy, what I did is I chopped off all of the rotting parts, and then I dipped him in a rooting hormone. That's what this white stuff is. His inside is actually a little bit of a bright green color. So what I've done is I've chopped him up, dipped him in rooting hormone, and I'm waiting for him to dry out a bit, and then I'm going to plant him in soil so that he can grow another root system. And I really hope that you make it, little guy. Please don't give up. But he's a moon cactus. He's delightful. Poor little guy. This is another mistake. I'm making a lot of mistakes in this video. Hopefully I don't repeat them. So this is my orchid. Now, you may be wondering, Emily, why is he out of a pot? That is because he is so dry. This poor little guy is very dry. Half of his root system was dead. Now that's an issue with orchids. Oh god, did I just break that? I did. I just broke a root. I'm sorry, little guy. These roots here, I don't have any diseased roots left, are all a lovely green color, especially when they're hydrated. Now, I knew that these roots were viable, but what I didn't know is that the brown roots that were attached at varying places around this poor little plant were not viable, and they should not have been left on. Because if you have dead roots on your orchid, they will cause rot. And that rot will prevent the plant from getting proper moisture. His leaf should be too turgid for me to do that. Turgid? Turgid. His leaf should be too turgid for me to do this. Poor baby. Right now I have a very weak black tea solution, and at night, every night, actually around this time, the time that I'm shooting this, it is 10:30 at night. I just dip him in here. I leave his leaves up, but the tannic acid in this black tea will encourage him to produce more healthy roots, and hopefully he's able to suck up enough water to keep him alive so that my mistake doesn't prove fatal. Poor baby. So I really like all types of plants. This includes moss. So what I did is I took this in from outside. Normally I would never ever suggest bringing a plant in from the outside, but this guy I'm putting in kind of like a makeshift terrarium, so anything that he brings with him will not stay here. Hopefully, fingers crossed. At the bottom here, there is a layer of black sand. I just got it from the dollar store. There isn't really a huge need for moss to have like super nutritious anything. You can have really diluted fertilizer if you choose to in the water that you spritz in there, but it's not necessary. So I just have this lovely little terrarium of moss that I gathered from my own backyard. Don't do it without like taking a lot of precautions though, because this could end up very, very poorly for me and all of my plants if I don't take the proper precautions. But you know, I'm making a lot of mistakes in this video, so we're rocking with it. It's fine. In this pot, I have petunias and violas. Now this is a bit of an experiment because I've never been able to get petunias to live for over a year. I know that they're annuals except for in zones 10 to 11, I believe, but I'm in zone 5. I'm in Wisconsin. It's cold. So I've kept them in this pot. I kept this pot warm during the winter, even while all of my petunias died off. So as you can see, there's some little sprouts forming, so I think that I've succeeded. Along with these guys, which are forget-me-nots, which I've grown from seed. I had them in a different pot, but since these all have very similar care requirements, I decided to just keep them together so that they can all, you know, have a very nice system going. I hope they like cuddling. This is my Dracaena. I'm too afraid to lift it. He's happy where he is. The one thing that he's very angry at me about is that I use tap water. And as I've probably stated before, I have very mineral-rich water because I have a well. This mineral-rich water makes my Dracaena very angry. He has browning tips of his leaves because his roots are very sensitive, and they're very angry with me for not providing absolutely distilled, mineral-free water. How dare I? How dare I? This is a pothos. Pothos are very, very common plants because they're pretty foolproof. You can be really dumb like me when I bought this, and they will forgive you. They will live. This guy also has a bit of brown on some of his leaves because I recently repotted him and he did not like that. But this is a very easy plant to care for. They just don't like wet feet, so let them dry out pretty well in between waterings, and they'll forgive you for many, many things. See, he's putting out that there's a new leaf, and this is a new leaf. It's not quite opened yet, but it's got some variegation on it, so that's good. This is my one and only oxalis. He looks a little sad right now because it's nighttime, so his leaves are all folded in, but he is a false shamrock plant, so he has these lovely large leaves, and he's also putting out flowers right now. He's got a lot of new growth right now because during the winter he suffered a little bit. He didn't like how little light there was. I'm gonna get a grow light pretty soon, so hopefully he'll not be quite as angry with me next winter. He's also dripping on me. Don't water your plants right before a plant tour, you guys. Stupid. Foolish. That's what I am. I am a fool! This is my croton! He's a big guy. I need to stake him. This one also came from Walmart, so I had to replant him naturally as soon as I got him home. I did check the roots on this one, so I do know that it was happy. But you can see he's got this awesome variegation. Green leaf on top, red leaf on bottom. Fantastic. I love this guy. This little guy is also from Walmart. Why do I keep getting so many plants from Walmart? You'd think I'd learn. But this guy is a Tillandsia, or an air plant. These guys are really cool. I've tried to have many air plants, and they've all died on me. But they all died for very different reasons, so hopefully I've learned from them and I can keep this one alive. That's all I want. I just want him to stay alive. As soon as I figure out if I've figured out how to keep him alive, that's a lot of figuring out I have to do, then I will make a video about this, because I have been misled many, many times about how to keep good care of this guy. I have another pothos. This one I got from a garden center, which is good. One thing that I will say about this pothos and my purchase of it is that it really follows one of the main pieces of advice that I have for people that are gardening. Always make sure that you get kind of smaller plants, especially if they're house plants, especially if you're new to gardening. If you take care of them really well, someday they'll be massive and awesome, and they will grow and be very happy with you. But if you make a mistake, it's not as big of a deal. And also, larger plants tend to be a lot more expensive. I think that a lot of the rookie mistakes people make are involved with being like, oh, that's a really cool, interesting plant. I wonder if I can get a really big one and it'll just look really cool in my house right away. Well, no, you don't know if it's gonna be happy in your house. You don't know if you're gonna be able to take care of it properly. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is to get that smaller plant and learn how to take care of it. And if you do a good job, you'll get a big plant someday, and it'll be great. Last but not least are my Marimo moss balls. These guys are pretty rare in the wild. They only grow in one lake in Finland and I think one in Japan, so you don't get to see them very often in the wild. They're actually a kind of algae that kind of rolls around on a lake bed, and it kind of forms these wonderful little balls. I wonder if I can give one. Yes, I can. The great thing about these guys is that they love to be handled, because rolling them around, touching them, squeezing them, it's going to help them keep their shape. And they really don't mind being touched, being moved, and they also purify the water that they're in, which is fantastic. So for these guys, care is super simple. I just kind of take them out once a week, every 2 weeks. I give them a real good bath, but otherwise, I'm pretty happy where they are. It's great. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked my plant tour. If you have any queries, suggestions, or just want to tell me that I'm dumb and I'm doing something wrong, please do so in the comments below. Thank you so much. I will see you when I see you. I don't know if I'm going to make another video on this channel. We shall see.